Did you know that the average age of Vietnamese is actually 15 years old? Oh my God, it's the youngest, I think, probably the youngest nation in the world. And only, I think 60% of Cambodians are actually below 30 years old. And this is the result of Cambodian genocide. Before I proceed, I just want to let everybody know that I'm not an expert on the subject. I'm just starting, I've said this several times, I'm just starting to try and get acquainted with as many of my Asian neighbors as I could, their history, culture. And this was one of the things I never heard about, the Cambodian genocide. I never heard about this. Apparently, during the Cambodian genocide, which was led by the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot, which was the Secretary General of the Communist Party of Kampuchea in Cambodia, they were huge supporters of Mao, and they wanted to implement the principles of Mao in the country, and so they wanted to turn the country into an agrarian rural area. So back in 1970, was it June or April 1975, when they met with Mao, and Mao gave them the go signal to implement this new plan. And for them to implement it, they wanted the country to be an agrarian country. To implement that, they had to empty the cities, and so there was mass killing. They were forced labor, physical abuse, and people died of hunger, of diseases, of abuse themselves. And by 1976, the Khmer Rouge actually renamed the country to Democratic Kampuchea. Okay, they renamed it just 1976, not too far ago. That was way after the Beatles' reign. So the massacre ended. So by 1970s, the US actually got involved and they started to help the Vietnamese military. So they were able to push the regime away, but not before the death of almost 3 million people. So there were 300,000 Chinese Cambodians that were killed, 90,000 Muslims, 20,000. I'm probably mixing up the numbers, but I think there were like only seven adults who survived the killing. So as of 2009, the Documentation Center of Cambodia has mapped 23,745 mass graves containing approximately 1.3 million suspected victims of execution. So by the time, so the US military actually helped in toppling the Khmer Rouge regime by 1979. The Khmer Rouge were actually out, and in January, it was only recent meaning 2001, January 2001, when the Cambodian government decided they were going to establish the Khmer Rouge Tribunal. And so they actually tried the leadership of that government that was responsible for the Cambodian genocide, and trials began only in 2009. By August 2014, there were several leaders like Nuon Shia and Q Samphan. They were convicted and they received life sentences for crimes against humanity committed against the genocide. So the involvement of the US actually was between 1970 to 1973. The number of, because it's an airstrike, everyone was devastated. They couldn't like pick and choose who are the ones that were going to be bombed, and it killed a lot of people, including people who weren't supposed to be killed, and it also devastated the land of Cambodia. And so there were a lot of historians, a lot of analysts and experts who claim that because of that bombing, because of the involvement of the US, the Khmer Rouge regime actually grew in support, because the military regime used that as a propaganda, saying that, you see, this foreign people that are trying to colonize us, this is why we're here, because we don't want them. So it was used as propaganda, and it became the reason the military regime actually became stronger. So it was actually the Vietnamese military that were able to topple the military regime out of the way. I was so surprised that it just the 2009 was like, just a little over a decade ago, when they started the trial of people, of everyone that was involved in the military regime. So Cambodia is a very interesting country, and I hope that we learn more about its history. And when we go there and when we see the country, let us all remember that this country is just young. It's just starting to recover from the military devastation, from the devastation that they experienced as a result of the genocide. So yeah, just wanted to talk about a little bit about Cambodia. It's a beautiful country. I have never been there, but I hope to be there and go there when all this pandemic is over. But if you do get the chance, please visit Cambodia.